But there was one question though, and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to ask about it because I didn't understand it. I'm like, okay, it must be an inside joke or something. But someone asked, will you ever bring back the ironing board? What was that? What is that about? I don't. Because I don't.
In my last band, in the Receiving End of Sirens, when we started playing live, the first show we played, I used a computer and like a little MIDI keyboard, and we'd never thought of it until the first show we played. We showed up and we were setting up, and I was like, I have no idea where to put this stuff. And everybody kind of looked around. We were like, oh my God, like we don't have a stand of any kind. So for the first show, I had to use a cart from the cafeteria of the college we were playing at. And then the next time we were at practice, it was like, well, what should I use? And Andrew from the Receiving End of Sirens, he ran and he was like, what about this? He brought down his mother's ironing board. Huh. And he was like, we can use this until like you buy your own. And I was like, well, I can't afford one. He was like, okay, well, we'll just use this. I started playing shows, putting all my equipment on an ironing board. And then eventually a few of our fans got together and made a custom ironing board cover that said like the Receiving End of Sirens. So I was touring with an ironing board.
Hey, it doesn't take up a lot of space.
No, it was great.
I mean,
it was great. Compact.
Well, then it was also refreshing to see that, you know, you make the statement about, you know, that you had a wonderful childhood, you know, a supportive family, and that encouraged creativity. I mean, do you feel, because most people are always talking about how, you know, times are tough and, you know, all my hard, you know, the hardships and everything. Do you sometimes feel like, wow, you know, kind of everything was pretty good? I mean, do you feel like you're in the minority at times? I mean, where it's like, it's...
Yeah, I mean, I guess I feel like maybe we're in the minority of people who don't necessarily, it's not that we don't care, it's just that the fact that whether or not I have money, the fact that I'm here even doing an interview, the fact that enough people, even the small amount of people, enough care that I would be able to do an interview and some people will read it or listen to it, like, you know, 99.9% of all people in their entire lifetime aren't given that chance. So at some point when you're young, you make that decision where I'm either going to be a money-driven person or I'm going to be an, you know, artistically driven person. And you can't make the decision to be artistically driven and then be upset 5 years into your career that you don't have a money-driven life. And I mean, it's not to say that at times we're all like, it's hard to pay our phone bills and stuff like that, but you know, we're at heart creative people, and I think everyone in the band has had a really good childhood that's conducive to what we do. So I mean, maybe we're in the minority of people who can step back and just appreciate the fact that we're even allowed to play music. But I would like to think that I would like to believe that not too many musicians feel inconvenienced, but I think a lot of them do.
Right.
You know.
I think it's, you know, the bigger somebody gets, the more out of touch they unfortunately become. I mean, you know, because it kind of goes along the lines of another statement that was made too in the chat about how, you know, you see groups of people that show up to concerts to be seen and not to see. And my husband and I, when we go to concerts, you know, especially the bigger the band, and it can be just a matter of months, you know, like Rise Against is a perfect example. You know, in the very beginning when nobody really knew who they were, all the people that were there for them. They weren't there to be seen because a lot of people didn't know who they were. But then now, you know, they're in Hot Topic and all that stuff, and you see all these, what I call, glad you could make it, bitches. You know, I mean, I know it has to be frustrating when you guys do see, you know, it's a little bit, because it's like, what are you doing here? When they're just not even paying attention to what's going on stage. It's just a little social hour.
Yeah,
it's
weird.
like, go ahead.
I mean, it's you know, sometimes when you're on stage, you know you're at the kind of show that people aren't there to see a band when you just hear bantering in the middle of a, you know, in between two songs. It's like, dude, like, do you guys? And it's not like we take, you know, it's not like we're like, oh, you should be paying attention to us or anything like that. But it's like,
but what'd you pay for?
Like, yeah, what are you here for?
It's like a quality over quantity. It would be better to play in front of only the 25 people that are listening to you instead of those 25 people and the 100 extra people who don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it'd be better to just, it's like a proportional thing. Like, it's hard to appreciate the people who are listening to you because they're just cluttered and surrounded by people that are talking and smoking and on their cell phones or sidekicks or whatever.
Yeah, it's like there's, like Dave Matthews Band comes through where I live, this huge arena, like every summer, it's like, oh, who's going to the DMB concert? It's like, people pay like $40 for a ticket just to go there and get completely wasted, and they don't even remember what's going on. Like, I remember one year, my friend invited me to go see The Roots and Carlos Santana, and my friends just got plastered. And I was like, dude, like, they paid for my ticket and everything.
Those are expensive tickets.
Yeah, they're expensive tickets. And they didn't even remember the show. They were too busy, like, just getting wasted. I'm like, man. I mean, it's good for those bands because they can make a living and do what they want to do. But at the same time, like, those people are just there to party. They're not necessarily there to, like, enjoy the experience. And that's kind of the problem. It's definitely, and, it's not, I'm not trying to be, like, materialistic or anything like that. But, like, there's certain girls that come to shows, and if they're there to see a band, or if they're there, like you said, just to be seen. Because sometimes they'll be like looking around a room, and everyone will just be casually dressed, and then you see these girls with like high heels on and like short skirts, and you're like, dude, okay, you're here to meet a band member, probably. It's never us, but you're here to meet a band member of one of the bands that we're playing with. You don't even really care what's going on other than that. It's just like, man, whatever. It's just,
well, now, there's another band, and it's funny because one of my coworkers brought it up, called Deer Hunter. Has there ever been any confusion with people?
Yeah, all the time. All the time with, like, looking at the poster at the show and saying, why does it say DEER?
Yeah.
And, I mean, I understand it, and to a certain extent, it's, I'm sure it's almost helped at times that it's, like, almost promotion for us that there's another band with our name and that the name Deer Hunter is out and about. But it's like it's weird when people start saying like, well, this Deer Hunter is better than that Deer Hunter, because it's like saying it's like comparing two people who you work with because they have the same name more than anyone else, and saying I can only be friends with that one just because like I knew him first or whatever. And it gets annoying, and I don't think, I didn't know when I named the band. I didn't know for the first, 2.5 years that the name was there, and then I found out, and I asked the label, I was like, do I need to change my name? And they were like, no, don't worry about it. And then all of a sudden, 2 years after that, the label's like, you should think about changing your name. And I was like, it's too late. Like, we're not going to... It's at that point where it's not like we're huge, and a name change would end, this big cash cow for all of these people. It's just that there's all these people that we do care about that know us as the Deer Hunter, and changing our name now would just be so weird. Yeah. It's at the point where it would feel like changing my name from Casey to something else.
Yeah, I think the weirdest situation that came about was when we did South by Southwest 2 years ago, and I think Act 2 was slated to come out around that time or shortly after, whatever. So our publicist was setting up interviews and all this on that, that weekend that we were there. And so we had an interview with spin.com or something, right? Early in the morning, and we walk up to this hotel room. There's all this stuff laid out, clothes, and they're like, yeah, pick whatever you want. I'm like, what is this, dude? This is not, we're not used to this at all, Then we sit down, and the dude was really nice. He's like, so, you're a Deer Hunter from Atlanta, Georgia, right? It's like, Atlanta, Georgia, dude. We're from Boston, So immediately,
immediately you knew the rest of his questions weren't
ready
for
you.
Yeah, and that's when he asked so how did you form?
Yeah,
and
like
what's
the
it like
usual,
being on tour?
Yeah, exactly.
I was like, oh no.
Yeah. Tell
and
me
then
about yourself, because I don't know.
But it was weird, anyways. That one, because they had that table filled with cigarettes that you could take. And it was like, oh, that's a great party
and
gift.
Beers,
Here's a bunch of cigarettes.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
killing yourself.
Yeah.
Speed up that lung cancer
Yeah.
for yourself. That is strange, though.
Yeah, that's happened a lot, though, recently. Just because they've gotten so big, they've been on, high-profile tours, 9 Inch Nails and Yeah Yeah Yeahs. And I actually just had a friend text me today asking me if we had played a show in London, in August.
Oh, yeah.
Because she was just in Europe. And I'm like, we've never even stepped foot in England. She's like, oh, it's the other band? I'm like, yeah, it's the other band.
Man.
It's, sometimes it's funny, but other times it's like, man.